Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So glad that you can make it. So let's just get straight into it. I basically did keto while doing OMAD, 1 meal a day, for 30 days straight. As you can imagine, someone who loves food like I do, this was not an easy feat, but it actually wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. Now I'm just going to share some of the things that I experienced and what I took away from it, which is quite some useful information. Also, when it comes to diets, I'm really bad at sticking to them. But the kind of diets I'm really bad at sticking to are the ones that limit what kind of things I should eat. For example, I tried to put myself on this diet of broccoli and chicken breast for a week for lunch, just lunch. I lasted 5 days, and by the 5th day, I was ready to die, basically. It was dreadful. It was one of the most horrible weeks of my life. I was also going to college at that time. That might have played a role in it, who knows. But the point is, whenever I limit myself to not eat a certain type of food, that is when things get crazy hard for me. Because when I want to eat something, I want to get after it, I just want to eat it. And in a way, the more I try to limit myself from eating that thing, the more I want it. So it's just a matter of time, really, before I get my hands on. But things get a little different for me when you turn it into limiting not what kind of things I should eat or could eat, but when I can eat. So when I started OMAD, I was already doing intermittent fasting for maybe a month already. And that is already by far the most longest diet sort of restriction, whatever thing that I've ever been on. Before that, my record was the previous one I told you about, the broccoli and chicken breast diet that lasted only 5 days. Another one is I try to limit oil. That lasted 2 days or maybe 1 day and a half, because by the second day I was like, hell no, I can't do this. I gotta have something oily. Like I gotta use olive oil to stir fry something. This is not happening. I can't just use water. I can't just use the air fryer. Well, I didn't have an air fryer, so maybe if I did that would have made it easier. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is before I even did the 1 month OMAD plus keto, I was already 1 month in to intermittent fasting. So in a way, I basically turned up my dietary restrictions a little bit. And after that 1 month of my experiment with OMAD plus keto, right now it's been 6 months after that. And ever since then, I've been intermittent fasting and sometimes doing 1 meal a day. But first, let's talk specifics about that one particular month that I did both OMAD and keto. How did I do it? How did I feel during that time? And what did I gain out of it? First of all, I want to address the issue where people are like, if you're on keto, if you're doing OMAD, 1 meal a day, you can't work out. You feel weak as heck. Right now, I can strictly say, at least for myself, because everyone's different, everyone's body is different. Just because something works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for anyone or anyone else for that matter. It could be just unique to you. But for myself, and if you have a body type like mine, you can exercise with no issues. I remember feeling a little bit weak. It could have been just up here because I was reading all these things about the effects of keto. So keto is known to make people weak during the first week. When you want to start it, it doesn't just happen automatically. It usually takes a week, maybe 2 weeks to get your body into the keto mode because you're burning a whole different sort of fuel source. You start burning a type of fat in your body once you enter keto. And when I enter keto, I have to admit, it might have been up here just like the placebo effect from reading all that stuff, from other people's experiences, but it could also very well be that I actually did feel a bit weak, especially during the first week. And I think I entered keto just right after first week. It didn't take me 2 weeks. It took me about pretty much spot on 6 or 7 days. Things were getting kind of tiring for me during the 4th or 5th day I'm getting to keto, and it was getting a little hard. But when I woke up on the 6th day and then the 7th day, I felt almost back to normal again, less weak, and it's like that weakness kind of faded. But of course, I'm not taking carbs or not taking over 50, I can't remember, 50 grams of carbs a day or something like that. By the way, guys, I'm not defining what OMAD is in detail or keto in detail, and there's a reason. It's because this video is not meant to educate you on what those things are, because if you're watching this and if you're trying to decide, should you do this, I think you should be doing separate research or a lot more research prior to this video to actually decide whether you want to go ahead with OMAD or keto. I'm not trying to convince you to do anything or put yourself on any sort of diet. Don't just listen or learn from YouTubers, learn from a professional. Having that said, having that out of the way, so yes, I was feeling weak during my 3rd or 4th or 5th day, probably all 3 of that, because the 1st and 2nd days, you kind of just are getting into the keto diet, you don't really feel anything. 6th and 7th day, I start going back to normal again. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling encouraged, motivated to keep going with keto. All the while, OMAD is like It's not a big deal. I've been intermittent fasting anyway. Now, sometimes, especially on the weekends or late nights when I'm working later, I did feel cravings, and sometimes I would cheat. Not so much keto cheat, but OMAD cheat, because with keto, you really want to stay on the ball because you don't want your body to reverse back to not in keto mode. I would have to start the experiment the next month because it wouldn't be a fair experiment anymore because it'll take a while to get back into keto. But for OMAD, I did cheat a little bit. When it's a little later, I wanted to have a late night meal, and that means that's not one meal a day anymore. I already had my one meal, but I had a snack as well. For myself personally, it's whatever, I'm not going to be super exact. For the most part, I was eating one meal a day for the majority. And by the way, my one meal a day would occur for supper. So I would not eat breakfast or lunch, but supper would be my one meal for that day. I think that makes the most sense for me. I think that makes it the most easy for me because if I just have the breakfast or lunch, I'll get so hungry and I'll get so many cravings when dinner comes around that I wouldn't be able to control myself. So I want to push my appetite no matter how hungry I got, no matter how much I was craving things to dinner, eat a satisfying meal. And I was actually working out almost every single day. I was giving myself maybe 1 day or 2 days of break in between. I was just doing calisthenics because, these days the gym doesn't really exist. It's not really an option. So yes, admittedly, I did feel weak on my 3rd, 4th, and 5th day, even working out. I was like, whoa, this is something different. I felt weak until day 6 and day 7. After that, even with working out and everything, things just continued normally for me. I'm just burning a different fuel in my body. I've already gotten used to it. Really no big deal. And this wasn't shocking to me. I kind of expected this. Having lived all my life, I was going to say most of my life, but all my life with this body, in this body, I have come to know that my body is actually pretty adaptable to things, and I'm not very sensitive to anything, really. When something like this comes around, when I'm trying something like this with my body, I'm fairly confident I'll be able to handle it with really not too many problems. And that's exactly what happened. But what I did experience was the result I was looking for. So I actually got skinnier. My face physically, literally got skinnier. I was coming into this wanting to cut some of the fat off, wanting to look more lean, and that's what I got. Your boy looked pretty good, all right? Your boy had a 6-pack, and at that time, I've already worked out quite a bit so that I don't look like a complete pinner. But this wasn't a surprise to me either, because again, having lived in this body for most of my life, am I Orochimaru? Am I jumping bodies? I've realized that this body changes pretty fast. If I'm exercising more 1 week and eating less high-calorie foods and staying within my calorie deficit, I tend to lose weight and lose it fast. Look a little bit more lean, a little bit more chiseled. And if I'm eating more bloaty foods, if I'm eating over my calorie, if I'm not exercising as much, then I really look like I'm packing on some weight. Now, this might sound like logic, right? This might sound like the most obvious thing. You eat more, you do less exercise, you get fat. And the reverse of that is you get skinny. But the major difference for me is that it happens really fast for me. It's like my metabolism. It's really easy to change my metabolism's mind. Like every time my body has a presidential election, the president that wants my body to be fat is like, hey, vote me. And then my metabolism's like, oh, okay. But then later on, the skinny president's like, no, vote me. And then my metabolism's like, okay, I'll vote you instead. I don't know what kind of metaphor that was. So anyway, what happened at the 30th day and why did I decide to stop? Now, although the first few days, day number 3, 4, and 5 were the most challenging for me, mostly because of keto, the last few days of the month, so maybe day 28, 29, and 30, they were kind of a struggle as well because I was actually really starting to miss and crave carbs. Every time I say this, everybody's like, what's wrong with you? I don't like bread. I don't like to eat bread. Anyone else with me? Like plain bread or like even freshly baked warm bread. Supposed to be good, right? I don't really like it. I want something to be between it. Like I want a sandwich or maybe a burger. I don't just want to eat bread. But guess what? At day 28 to 30, I was craving bread. I was craving like just any bread. If it's bread, just, yeah, sure. Same thing with rice. Like I wouldn't eat white rice just in a bowl. I want some sauce on that. I want some curry. Maybe some spicy sauce, maybe some beef. I don't know, put something on there so you can mix it with the rice. But I was like, dude, I'm just craving white rice right now. Maybe even whole wheat rice. Damn, now I'm really crazy. So by 28, 29, and 30 days, I was really having the munchies for carbs, and I couldn't control it anymore. My body was, and my mind, was not about to have it anymore. Originally, I wanted to make a video where I try to do OMAD and keto for as long as possible, but since it did end on the month, I thought it would make sense just to do it for a month. It's a good reason to end my little experiment. And when I did end, when I put carbs into my body, that was glorious. I think I had pizza, and a lot of it. It's like my body immediately stopped being in keto and immediately shifted back to burning immediate sugars and carbohydrates instead of the kind of fat it was burning. I was so sad. I could feel myself getting more bloated, probably because of the pizza, and I didn't have, I didn't look as lean within 2 weeks. But one really important thing I took away from that is, at least for the time being, at least for the present, if I really wanted to, I could just do OMAD and keto, or maybe keto by itself and intermittent fasting. And I could maybe lose weight if I really was getting out of control. I had the mental capabilities of actually letting myself lose some weight at least. And it didn't take long for my body to go into keto, and it didn't take long for me to start feeling the full effects of keto and OMAD working together, burning that fat. And you know what? Just knowing that is really beneficial for me, because it's kind of like making Thanos bleed, right? That little sprinkle of blood didn't do much to Thanos. Like, he's fine. He's totally fine and recovered in 2 seconds, but it really improved everyone's mood and encouraged and motivated everyone, because this big bad dude was made to bleed. That guy is not a god. He can bleed, right? In the same way, I realize my body isn't completely going to be unsalvageable if I eat a little too much for a month or two, and maybe if I get a little plump, I can still try to go for that OMAD keto combination and get it back down to a more comfortable percentage of fat. And finding out, having this piece of information in the back of my mind, it kind of makes me less anxious. So if you enjoyed this video, if you took something away from it, please smash that like button and subscribe. There'll be more videos to come. If you have any feedback, or you want to share your own experiences with this, or any suggestions, make sure to put it down in the comment section below. I'll see you guys there, and I'll also see you in the next video. Peace.